at the last sitting of Parliament, insisted on issuing a statement against a lot of opposition from members of the House. Now, in that statement, he said that whether anyone liked it or not, the majority in the next Parliament, which is this Parliament, was going to introduce a motion to set up a Justice and Peace Commission to probe or inquire into June 4 and 31st December. There was an uproar from both sides of the House, and you were shown clearly walking out of the House, apparently in opposition and in disgust to what he had said.
This is a case of a genuine coincidence. This is a clear case of coincidence.
I want to be clear in my mind whether you were opposed to the timing of what he was saying, or you were opposed to the content or the idea of setting up such a commission, and what is your own opinion on that?
I would prefer to answer the latter. I left the chamber when the discussion was on, and I think that insofar as we all do that, as you know perfectly well, I don't think that any particular significance should be placed on the times I get up and leave the chamber and come back. But my own view is that at some stage or another, we're going to have to come to grips with that whole era and its consequences. We want to come to grips with it in a way whereby the peace, the stability, the progress of our country is not jeopardized. We're required in this country, like in many other countries in the world, to make a decision as to how we deal with our past. By and large, the nation is ready to say that what has happened in the past, let bygones be bygones. But there's still the situation involving the victims. People whose sufferings in one way or another cannot be so easily alleviated just by words. That a mechanism, some kind of mechanism was already in place when you were in office. The Attorney General, for instance, I know, was reviewing the whole situation of the restoration of people's assets and how all of that could be arranged. What I believe that the minority leader was putting on the table, which is I believe, for us, the majority view in the country, is that let us have some kind of mechanism working, not with discretion. Our objection to the way that the Attorney General was handling this matter was that there was a slightly discretionary element. He would choose which people to deal with it. But let us have a mechanism which would deal with these matters in a reasonably objective and impartial way. And the only way that you could do it was to establish some sort of body that would deal with it. I am not sure in my own mind. It's a matter that we'll have to make a decision about soon, whether there's in fact any need for any particular body, because there are institutions in place, like the SHRAG, which can in fact perform these functions for those who believe that they're entitled to some sort of restitution or compensation or whatever for what has happened. And my preference, frankly, and that is going to be the attitude which dominates my tenure of office, is that wherever there are already existing institutions that can deal with the problems that you come up by, let those institutions be strengthened, let those institutions deal with it, so that we can have some development of institutions in our country in an orderly and organized way. Every time we are at every stage, we're having to set up ad hoc special bodies to deal with particular problems. I myself do not think that that is a satisfactory way that we can develop the state structures of our country. I think that to the extent that the charter of the SHRAG would permit them to deal with this area, my advice would be people who have problems, let them go to SHRAG and let SHRAG deal with it, rather than going around the whole dramatic thing of the so-called truth and every country has its own peculiar circumstances. The South Africans did not have a SHRAG in place when they established the Truth and National Reconciliation Commission. I believe the Nigerians also didn't have such a body as ours in place when they decided to follow that example. We have a body that can, given the necessary institutional support, play that role.